What if love is more than just a feeling? What if it's a universal force shaping how we understand ourselves, our community, and the world? Welcome to the Philosophy of Love, where we break down the science behind love, how it influences our minds, our behaviors, and the way we connect with humanity. Join us as we explore the psychology of love as a driving force for empathy, growth, and understanding. You're watching the Philosophy of Love podcast with Juan Lee and Dr. James Brockington.
Hello, everybody. How you doing, Doc?
I'm great. How about you, Juan?
I'm doing well. Welcome back, everybody, to Clear Journeys, the Philosophy of Love. You're shot to be joking. Hey. Again, we are authentically ourselves. We welcome you to it. Yeah. I tell you, if it ain't one thing, it's another.
That's 4 or 5.
But that's okay. That's okay. As you can know, as you'll see here, still learning. But I'm going to introduce you to Clear Journey. Clear Journey. Hey.
Now, isn't that what it's all about?
Yeah. I mean, this is a very significant message or a lesson to learn in our days episode, because we have a program called It's Life, and it rolls and transfers into every aspect of your existence. And so it just facilitates, it really begins to piggyback on the fact that life is nothing but growing. It's about growth. It's about continuing to grow.
The acronym that we use for it in mental health is logical, integrated, fluidic environment. Stable, it's always tying itself in. It's constantly in motion, and it's always going to be about you and your environment.
And to be able to process that in a very real manner, real sense.
Oh yeah.
It's almost, it lends itself to Murphy's Law.
Yes, it does.
If it can go wrong, it will go wrong, because that's what life affords it to. It affords it to go wrong.
And in that capacity of going, quote unquote, wrong, it reinforces the fluidic and the synchronistic way in which we can respond to it.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. There is a philosophy
precisely
that goes along with this thing called life. And it's so very interesting because we have chosen here at Clear Journey to make it a love philosophy that in turn establishes a mindset so that you might be able to navigate this thing called life.
That's exactly right.
And so with that being said again, let's welcome our community back. If this is your first time here, and understand that we are going to be authentic, if at nothing else, we're going to be authentically ourselves, and welcome you to the Philosophy of Love. My name is Juan Lee. I'm the founder of Clear Journey, and I'm an author and a mindset coach, speaker, and boy, I tell you, we're here to talk about to explain how I develop or how I navigated life at a really young age with love. And it's the philosophy of love that we're here with Dr. James Brockington. He is a professional service consultant, but a background in his profession as a psychologist. And he and I have been chopping up this thing called life in a way of being able to understand it using the philosophy of love that I used, not knowing that there was a system that was in play that I was following, not aware. But in light of that, though, allowing us to share it in a manner in which everyone can understand and see that there is a path to be able to navigate this thing called life. There is a system. There is a systematic way of being able to understand how, why, and what we do in this thing called life. And hopefully we can share with you in a way in which connects with you, resonates with you, and really allow you to reach your full potential as you navigate life more successfully. Doc, you want to say anything before we get started?
Yeah, what we do with it is tie together again, as I said a moment ago, logical, integrated, fluidic environment, life. We want to be able to, in the process of that streaming vision, and by streaming, we're looking at water flowing. We want to be able to show that at any point in time, you are in that moment of that relationship. You are in that moment of that acknowledgement of its meaning and its purpose to you. The clarity comes. And this is where, interestingly enough, as our topic today is going to speak to how and when does love connect with life. The interesting aspect of that topic is that love is already in a connection to life because love is a living, organic, and vibrant emotion. It is something that at conception, an individual aligns him or herself with all of the infinite possibilities and probabilities that it will exist for him and her in a continuum that reinforces the moment you understand who you are becomes the moment you're mindful of your meaning and purpose. And that is the synchronicity of love, to constantly reinforce that meaning and that purpose. So no matter where you want to start the question, the answer is already there. It's simply a matter of embracing it, acknowledging it, and quite frankly, accepting and applying it.
It's amazing, absolutely amazing how that definition and how you just articulated it. I could see it all in what I did, because again, I was lacking all of those assurances up until I went into the military.
Up until you reached in the chronology of your life, a moment when you were prepared. And by prepared, had the confidence to accept the answer to the question you were going to ask. A lot of times people are afraid to ask the question.
Well, but that's this whole thing. I didn't know I had a question. I didn't know.
And here the humor of it is you don't know until you don't know.
Until you don't know, you don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the point that the military. And look, I'm not. Yes, I am. To be honest with you, I am. I'm promoting the military.
Yes.
Because it forces you to come into to confront that very thing that you're talking about, whereas you didn't even know it existed. You didn't even know that confrontation was necessary, or even that it existed. See, I didn't have what I didn't know I didn't have.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the military forces you to challenge you to see something that you didn't think that you didn't see before. And then now it's up to you
Yeah.
to accept
Right.
what they're presenting to you about you.
And in accepting it, internalize its meaning and purpose, because its meaning and purpose is to create a changed state in your awareness and your perception. Now, instinctively, it's about survival.
Well, in the military, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But again, then we didn't already jumped into the conversation.
Well,
because
this is how organic. This is how it happens.
because see, this is how that collective, military collective, defined my purpose.
And defining your purpose, it also shaped your intellectual acknowledgement of that purpose. You had to think about what that purpose meant to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's baked in. Here's the thing: it's baked in to this thing, to the military. There is no other institution that I can think of. Now, there are some divisions or parts of, and I will talk about them in the sense of to be able to define love in a way that the military does. And there are a few professions that do it. The military, the fire department, and the police department.
Yeah. They
because they innately in them comes with a degree of sacrifice.
And in that sacrifice, a degree of service.
That's it. But that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. And when you think about the love that we talk about, it's that type of love that is about service.
And in that, go ahead.
To our fellow man.
person. Exactly. I clean up a fellow person. We use a fellow man, but politically correct, fellow person. I'm not going to take the woke out of me.
I mean, it's the word that sits behind us. It's humanity.
It is, and it is the serendipity of how that feeling ingratiates your purpose and your meaning that constantly draws you into it. It's food. There was a book several years ago, Chicken Soup for the Soul. It feeds that desire. It feeds that thirst for that connectivity that love in its expansiveness represents. It's constantly connecting us. The vibrance of it, the organic capacity of it. And it is an emotion. And the power of that emotion is, as all emotions do, alerting you to that moment when something is different from what was happening a moment ago. It draws your attention to it because in acknowledging that something that is different is the compilation of all of your experiences that now compel you to resolve, what does this mean to me? And once I have discerned that I have the trust and the confidence to do that on a continuum, I have just enabled my subconscious mind to satisfy the impulsiveness, to drive, to survive. Because that's what the subconscious mind is doing.
Well,
constantly
and let me
telling you to do it.
Yeah, and let me just tie and put some connections here. Because when I said the military, the police, and the fire department, that what's in it for me element for the fire department is my community. It's my community.
Oh yeah.
It's in the police department, it's my community.
Absolutely.
In the military, it's my nation, it's my homeland, it's what's in it for me is collectively what's in it for all of us.
All of us, exactly.
And it's because I have that desire to serve for not only myself, but for my community or for my collective, I choose to love.
And in choosing to love, you reinforce the meaning and purpose of that community and that collective. And you see the value in that community and that collectiveness. You know, all you got to do now is look at what's going on in LA and see how, in the horrific expression of nature's violence, you see the civility, you see the compassion, you see the concern that individuals bring to their fellow person.
Well, let's let people know what that is. There are some fires at this
Yeah, some
particular
fires
time.
in LA. Mm-hmm.
And we're basically dating this recording. But it is fires going on in LA that have been going on for now 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
2 weeks. And it has been devastating to some of the most prominent and very iconic areas in the state of California. And it is remarkable. Absolutely. I mean, if you've never been, and I'm not saying if you've never been to California, now let's be honest. If you've never been to the desert and you get some idea as to how dry it is and what that means for fire, and add winds to it, it is a devastating combination that has devastated a lot of California.
Absolutely, yeah.
A lot of California. So let's just put it into perspective so the people who might pick this up, because this is gonna air sometime after, hopefully after this has subsided. But at this time, it goes to the very nature of what it means to demonstrate love to our fellow
personage.
neighbors.
Yeah, exactly. And it reinforces yet again the ability for anyone at any time to rise to that level of congruity and connection. Anyone at any point in time. You are never in a position where you do not have the capacity to acknowledge the meaning and purpose of love in your life. You are never that far gone.
Well, this might be a very interesting point in time to bring this up, and I don't mean to throw it off as too far, because one of the things that I promote and as I talk and I share is that love is a choice. And it's a choice that you can implement it in any manner in which you choose to, be it positive or negative. And people have a difficult time of accepting that because they view love as only being something that is good, or that is in good in from their perspective. What do you have to say about the concept of love having this duality of being good or bad?
The composite of it is that it is the sincerity and the significance of your choices that become far more important than your decisions. Your choices will execute for you the clarity, the certainty, and the consistency of the meaning and purpose of what it is you are about to do. Because in that context, that thought, that choice is saying, this is what you are going to commit to as the action you take. Now, if you have a sense of meaning and purpose that is what we call in mental health operationally defined, then you are able to see what is the consistency, the certainty, and the confidence that will come as what is the confirmation that what I choose is the action I can commit to. The principle and the values that enable an individual to do this are taking place at the point actually of conception. Born into life begins a developmental stage that extends from the point of conception until roughly the age of 10, where an individual is being mentored and nurtured. Normally, we like to hope that it is biometric parents that are doing this, but it is the entire community sphere, the what we sometimes refer to as the social ecological system, that is enabling an individual to internalize the meaning and the purpose of his or her existence. By roughly the age of 5, one of our greatest psychologists in the field of education, Jean Piaget, said, by the age of 5, an individual has the capacity to internalize basic principles, values, and a thought process that reinforces their responsivity to decision making. Those core principles, the central orientation to the realistic experiences that are taking place in that mentoring and nurturing stage, again, conception to roughly 10, are establishing the foundation for the actual acknowledgement of the difference between positive and negative applications and behavior. This is why it's so essential that in the early developmental stage, the consistency and the certainty can reinforce the confirmation that what I am doing is going to lead to this outcome result. Rules of parenting will tell you fair, concise, and consistent. Fair, concise, consistent.
You just jumped into a whole lot of different things.
Now, we started our conversation talking about how the military, the professional organizations, firemen, police forces, all give you that sense of meaning and purpose. What they are articulating for you is those same basic mentoring and nurturing rules of fair, concise, and consistency that give you confirmation that what I am committing myself to has purpose and meaning. That is the objective of that developmental stage. So when we are confronted with a decision that requires an action, the thought process that has clarified the choices, if it has been effectively processed through value, purpose, and meaning, will come the basic way in which that individual organically responds in what is going to be a productive and beneficial manner, because that behavior in the past has been reinforced. That behavior in the past has been established.
So this, in fact, does support the fact that there could be negative or positive outcomes with the system of love in place.
Absolutely. And it is because of the capacity to think, critically think, and reason intellectually, that behaviorally we can adapt, adjust, and achieve the efficiency and the effectiveness of the outcome result we seek. Now, I just told you that an individual can have the greatest thoughts in the world and apply those greatest thoughts and be the best person you have ever had the opportunity to know. And the same mechanism that enables him or her to do that will make them the most evil and ruthless person you've ever encountered.
And that leads me into that leads me into, you have just described the very fundamental, essential thing necessary. And this is what I've come to find out, this love thing, as being the one single thing that is critical in determining the outcomes is in the processes that one uses this thing called love through to determine the outcomes of whatever direction or course they might take in life.
In its application. Exactly.
Yeah. So this leads me to this great big question.
Mm-hmm.
Why is nobody ever teaching us this thing?
Well,
Why is, oh, here we go. You mean why and when, how and where and how do we learn about how significant you go ahead. You get what I'm saying here.
I'm getting what you're saying, and I'm getting what you're saying by, you know, the fundamental questions in life. The basic 6 fundamental questions are who, what, when, where, why, and how. From the perspective that we're discussing now, even in the fundamental acknowledgement of those 6 basic questions, the 2 that have the greatest significance and emphasis are why and how. If you understand why, then you can see how. If you understand how, you can see why. They are the balancing that reinforces the intellectualizing, the actual thought to behavior of meaning and purpose. We talked about how by 5 to 10 core values, principles, basic decision-making take place. It's in the transitional and transformative stages of our growth and development between basically the ages of 10 to 15 that we are internalizing that meaning and purpose that you're looking for, because this is where the emergence of individual self-respect emerges. Self-respect, basically the systemic emotional link to feeling, that as a system, you begin to see how your emotions will link you to your feelings. Your feelings are what give you meaning and purpose. Emotions, again, simply telling you, pay attention to something that's different than it was a moment ago. Because a moment ago, you were able to process, function, and adapt to what you were doing. Something has happened right now in this moment. We call it the mind-body continuity. This moment that has changed your awareness of who you have become. Why and how? You organize your thoughts, you oriented those thoughts, and you operationalize those thoughts has now been asked to reassess what I am doing. Feelings motivate us to resolve that question. So look at the difference, the separation between emotion and feeling. When I understand what the separation between an emotion and feeling is, I'm starting to become more mindful of their meaning and their purpose in my decision making. I now see that the moment I can, as a system, link my emotions to a sense of respect and a sense of esteem for me, my mind's energy, my environmental, behavioral continuity. If I can begin to see that, then emerging from that sense of respect and esteem will be meaning and purpose. Meaning and purpose clarify my direction. So we have between the ages of basically 10 to 15 to develop this integrated sense of self-esteem, self-respect, mindfulness, and the capacity through that mindfulness, the deliverable of behavior. This is where the mind and body are aligning themselves.
And here's the thing, though. In the processes that are innately needing to be accomplished, in these very critical points in our lives, where are we learning about love to nurture those things? And I'm saying it in a sense that where that is understood and known to be nurtured?
When it's understood and known to be nurturing, I'm going to take you back to that ecological model
No,
of
well, but
social
see,
development, because
no, but
that's where it happens.
yeah, I get
You,
what I know. I know what you're saying, but I'm saying,
Mhm.
but there is no place that teaches this in the sense that while it's necessary at the point where it should be, it's like you got first grade through 12th grade. Is there, you're saying at certain points in life, you
Mhm.
should have gained these things. You should have gained this assurance, this confidence, these things that are necessary for you to then begin to apply them going forward. Okay, I get it.
Absolutely correct.
But
Absolutely correct.
but here I'm going to throw something into it,
Mhm.
and that is religion.
You
The
can throw
religion,
religion. You can throw
throw religion
throw
because
religion into it.
religion uses the word love,
Yes.
God,
Hmm.
and it's to imply that God is love, to share that information. And love is the connector to what you've just now described as necessary in development so that you can process through this thing called life. And yet, that, unless there's somewhere else that talks about this love in the manner in which you understand it to be that transformative thing, who else is talking about it
Now you're
in
getting
that sense?
now you're getting into the interaction that every one of us has with one another. You've heard the term role modeling
Mm-hmm.
before,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Role model, from an acronym perspective, is a realistic orientation to life experiences, or realistic orientation to life experiences. Role modeling, I'm realistically orienting you. And mentoring and nurturing, remember that developmental stage, conception to roughly 10, I am realistically orienting you to the meaning and the purpose of love and life as a continuum, because that's a learned experience to see love and life as a continuum. When we introduce the philosophical significance of religion to the equation, and I say philosophical because there is no singular religion, that becomes this is the end all and the be all. We have fought wars behind that, and we'll continue to fight wars behind that, quite frankly, because we are still not acknowledging as effectively as we can, as opposed to religiosity, spirituality. Spirituality is that reinforcer of this life and love continuum. I can, at my very core of existence, that moment when I can acknowledge that little Susie, who is sitting in my kindergarten class, is different from me, but we can still play together at recess. Little Johnny, who's in my 5th grade class, doesn't say the same words I say, doesn't even speak the same language I speak, but when we get together and we play and we actually interact organically, vibrantly, energetically with one another, we find, and here's the kicker, common purposing. Common purposing. Christ called them on the mountaintop the Beatitudes. If you want to bring religion into it from a Christian, a Judeo-Christian perspective, the Beatitudes, the I am linked to you, and by me being linked to you, you are linked to our Creator. There are so many, again, religious aspects and philosophical presentations of what creator means, but the commonality, the singularity, that if you want to take it to the base element of the mindfulness, is the spirituality. That is that expression of my linking to you and you're linking to me. That's the message that sometimes gets lost in that social ecological model that you've heard me refer to earlier. Because it is in, again, the transformative stage of our intellectual as well as our physical progression, that transformative stage, again, the ages of basically 10 to 15, where we start internalizing a sense of self. And in that sense of self, we become mindful of who we are, why and how we organize our thoughts, we orient ourselves, we operationalize our existence, meaning and purpose. We are mindful of it. Mindfulness means we're now in a position to take a sense of ownership about it. If our role models, whoever it is that's realistically orienting us to life experiences, parents, grandparents, Miss Ida, who's the neighborhood mom, Uncle Joe, who is like the football coach that we can gravitate towards, if they have been instrumental in demonstrating to us the compassion that exists in not only embracing individual differences, but drawing strength and a sense of educational clarity about how those differences unite us to make us better than the singularity we were before, or in essence, reinforcing what Dr. Charles Darwin said as the survivability, not the strongest, not the fastest, but the species that is organically adaptable and can, through that organic adaptiveness, adjust and align to whatever circumstance presents itself, as the challenge for advancement reinforces again the capacity to think, critically think, reason, that is our thought mechanism, becoming our behavioral adaptability, adjustment, and achievement. Because you will adapt to what you understand. You will adjust to what you accept. You will achieve what you acknowledge. When we reach what is considered that transitions movement into the actual alignment of personality and behavior, which is taking place at the age of 17 into forever, we now call that early adulthood or adulthood. When we get into that point where at 17, from basically 10 to 15, right around 17, when we start exerting our personality, which is a composite of the way we think, critically think, reason, adapt, adjust, behave, the behavioral alignment of that becoming the integrated sense of our capacity to be large and in charge, we are now in a position to discern for ourselves how best to demonstrate what we see as the meaning and purpose of love. Now, this is where your value system, your merits, your sense of honor, your sense of congruity, your sense of civic responsibility is sometimes not always as firmly articulated as it should be. And when you have immersed yourself in an environment that, again, since we've talked about it earlier, the military, a policing force, the firefighters, any public service, doctors, EMTs, any public service environment that brings you to that moment where the organized structure of the society, what we call the social economic alignment of that society, emerges itself, then you begin to see where spirituality and that sense of overarching awareness of my purpose and meaning in life now becomes what mental health and psychology accepted in the early 80s as the person and environment link, or social psychology. We now call it community clinical psychology. Into the 21st century where we are now, we're even going to use fancy terms like psychoergonomic engineering. We are psychologically and ergonomically engineering environments that facilitate this awareness of just how important it is that a child get this during that developmental stage, during that formative stage.
Let me summarize what I'm hearing you say.
Mm-hmm.
When I interjected religion into it, it was for me the only place that I had heard love, this unconditional identification of love assigned to and assessed to God, an abstractness that was, for most part, unattainable.
Mm-hmm. For you at that point.
Well, let me get to the point here is that
okay,
without identifying and making the connection that you have made as God being this mentor that facilitates the organic way that we are to navigate
mm-hmm.
this thing called life, that has, how do I say it politely, misled, confused,
mm-hmm.
and perverted the very essence and essential need for that understanding of mentorship. Now, in that
vein,
in that dynamic,
vein.
You know, in that vein,
mm-hmm.
yeah,
in that vein, right?
And so we hear people say mentor, and that's in essence what the vernacular of love makes basically realize as a manifestation that God's talking about, or the religions are talking about, and that this spirituality is the manifestation of it through these mentorships and models of how that generic cultivation
okay. mm-hmm.
of our development is that's necessary for us to navigate this thing called life. And it's very, the military for me was my mentor,
because it gave you two very important things. It gave you a structure and a form, a structure that shows you how to think about this, how to see it beyond its limitation. Because one of the things that I have a significant concern with is that every time we are trying to, and we as people are trying to define God, what we're actually doing is limiting the construct that is God. We're saying that God is this. Well, if he or she is omnipotent, then how can he or she be limited to just this?
Well, that's that part that makes God, love is what makes God God.
And because, run with that thought, because love is what makes God love, then how is it that God in love can allow these tragedies to happen? Becomes the argument that you get thrown back at you.
No. Don't get me wrong. Now, I'm giving here's and this is okay. We're having this conversation now.
Yeah, because
here's where it didn't say love is God. It says God is love. Love is the higher being or the higher essence of what God is. And so if you if in context of what the conversation that we had, God is subject to love. He's subject to love, and he's made that point clear in Christianity anyway.
In Christianity,
he's subject to that. And so what happens has no bearing. The confusion here is that in my mind, there was no connection that I could visualize, that I could put my hand on, that could connect me to that thing that you just called mentorship, that I could see, that I could manage, I could handle, because God is so abstract. It's a concept that you cannot begin to see unless you can make the connection. Apart from that connection, it's very abstract and it's very confusing. And so it was that identification that I gained in the military to see. Now, people can't go together. How could you find love in the military? Military don't know we're going to destroy stuff. Go and mess, kill and destroy. And it's not the mission, it's the how they perform the mission that demonstrates that love.
Right.
It's about it's the demonstration of the mission, that not the mission, because the mission is subject to man's opinion or man's desires and wants. You know, it's subject to, you know, I got a hair of mine, you know, and I want to go scratch it. And that's what I go do. And I use the military to go do it. And it can be the most profound missions that requires a love component to do it, because you don't get to ask why. You just got to go do or die, do and die. And so yeah, I mean, let's so that's let's separate the mission from the how to, the what we do. And that's the manifest, or the way in which it's done is what love, how I was able to articulate and begin to see the manifestation of love. It was like people who care, people who are willing to sacrifice, people who are willing to give of themselves on behalf of others. That's what it was about for me. And so that was how that came up. But I had not had any experiences like that within religion.
Without actually getting deep into the mechanics of that mentoring and nurturing developmental stage, what I'm going to throw out for you to consider is, you may not have had the clarity of the events that were occurring during that period in your life, but those events were occurring, and it is in the subconscious capacity of our mind to process what experiences mean to us and how they relate to us, because that's the purpose of our subconsciousness. This is where dreams, this is where fears, this is where ambitions, this is where motivations are facilitating themselves to link us to the actual organic connection that we experience to life. Now, nobody may have explained to you, that may not have been that individual who you felt comfortable in talking to that actually said, well, here's how this works. There may not have been until you finally got to that staff sergeant or that drill sergeant in the Air Force who was saying to you, Airman Lee, this is what I expect you to do. And I'm going to keep it. And they always use the terms, remember, in our training, they always use the term, I'm going to keep it simple for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take all of the confusion. I am eliminating anything that is a quote unquote distraction for you, because I need you to organically respond to this. Organically means simultaneously respond to this, because as anyone in the infantry will tell you, when the bullets are flying, you don't think. You're organically responding because your survival mechanism kicks in.
And it's, this is very significant in this, because it's amazing how the military, they're looking for their ideal enlistee or officer. It's 18 to 22.
Oh yeah.
That's ideal. That's ideally the mindset is in the place that it's to the point where it has enough that it can be molded into being that which they need, and it's going to be very organic in what they're requiring you to do if you're in that moldable space to be able to accomplish something that is typically going to be, and this is the challenge that our community is going to be confronted with, because regardless as to what stage of life you're in, this can occur if you want it to.
At any point in time. Exactly.
If you want it to.
It's
going to be more intentional later on than it was earlier in your life. And that's why this conversation is so important, because if you recognize what you've missed, you can then begin to identify at any stage and know that you can then begin to what is necessary to correct it or alleviate it or adjust it or navigate it, because you knew that it was something that was not performed or identified earlier in your life.
And that is why it's so important when you reach that transition point. And again, for the sake of numerology, the ages of 17 to roughly 35, we're calling it early adulthood. It's at that point where mind and body, thinking and behavior are aligning themselves under the configuration of your cognitive developmental alignment to your personality's application. This is who you have become, that you are now mindful of in your meaning and your purpose. You are effectively adaptable to the circumstances and situations you encounter. You can say that today, I'm not going to do something that I know is not going to be to my benefit, and by my benefit, the collective enhancement of those around me. Leaders do that. We're sitting there and we're saying, is there a code of ethics in the military? Absolutely. Is there a code of ethics in the police force, in the fire department? Absolutely. We can't do what it is we do without having that sense of clarity about what it is we do. Now realize that there are going to be times when we are tested. There are going to be times when we are stressed. There are going to be times when we are going through those situational alignments in our thinking and behavior that demand of us to rethink everything that has led to this point. That is why our fourth instinct becomes so crystalline and so significant. It is that cognitive behavioral alignment that is sometimes referred to as I think, therefore I am, therefore I think. We're talking about interactive mindfulness. Interactively mindful of what it is I have acknowledged as my meaning and purpose in this moment. And that's what love really teaches you about, is interconnectivity to life, meaning and purpose in this moment. Here is my moment. We're talking Judeo-Christian belief. Jesus goes to Gethsemane and says, I am in that moment now, right now. I've had my last supper with these guys. I'm in my moment right now that I am really going to take on, or not, this mission. Because the moment I take on this mission, I am fulfilling a structural destiny. And he took it.
Mm-hmm.
He took that mission.
Mm-hmm.
He took that mission, and in the solace of that mission, he clarifies for us that moment of choice we all need to make. We talk about if the love I am going to give is going to be positive or negative. Each and every time we are confronted with, is it going to be positive? We like to say good. Or if it's going to be negative, we use the term bad. Good or bad are irrelevant because they're choices.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The decision that they reinforce is what becomes relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Because the moment we can see what the limitation of bad would be, the moment we can see what the enhancement of good would be, is the moment we made that choice.
Yep.
This is what I will do. The military does that to us organically. Fire departments, police forces, again, providers in communities, social services, they do that to us because they constantly have in front of us the purpose and meaning is the stability of the community.
Mm-hmm.
What does the community need? What does the community of man in a larger sense need? And we use man simply because it's a moniker for mankind, humanality.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yep.
does humanality need? Humanality needs to be able to answer precisely what we're talking about today. How and when does love connect you to life? The moment you reach that point where you can see with precision and clarity, this is what I do because this is in the best interest of the humanity that I serve, is the moment that love has connected you to your life. That's the organicness of it and the vibrance of it. Look at the enthusiasm that you get when you can say to yourself, you know, I did that. Look at the example you said.
And there goes the purpose of love.
And there it is. Underscore it.
I mean, there is, man, we were going to talk about this later, but that's what love does. It connects us to purpose. It connects us to purpose in that way of how you just systematically put that through, put that to us is what that it did. The end of that is like, how does my love allows me to make a difference in the life in which we live for others?
And more importantly, it reinforces that you are that difference that you make for others. You are that
authentic, unique, or original difference needed to make a difference. Each and every one of us.
What better role model? What better way to authenticate the compassion, to expand on the congruity? What better role model than to be someone who realistically has oriented you to what you learned in this experience? Look at the challenge I had to go through. Christ says, look at the challenge I had to go through to get to this point where, yes, all your sins, quote unquote, are theoretically washed away. There's another, there are two other guys up there. One guy gets it. One guy says, you know what? I kind of believe what you've been saying. Christ looks at him and says, you know, today you and I are going to, you know, I don't want to get too vulgar about it, but you and I are going to kick back.
Yes, I got you. Yes.
We're going to be there. The other guy's still struggling, doesn't get it.
Look, you got it. And that was, it didn't matter when
When
It's just you
got
got it.
you got it. And then
You
the
finally
moment you
got it.
you get it. You know?
Yes, yes, yes.
See,
And
that's
again, I mean, you've done it. You've actually articulated and made something very abstract, very clear and simple. And that's what this does. It makes it clear, and so that you can now apply it. I mean, in a way, in a very personal way. But when you get it, how many times have you heard that sermon? If you get it, you get it.
you get it.
And the thing about it is, he says everybody who says and they get Lord, Lord, ain't gonna get it. They ain't gonna get it because they're about saying the word instead of understanding what it
Understanding the
means,
meaning,
the
purpose
meaning
behind
and the
it. That's
purpose
right.
behind it.
That's exactly right.
You don't get it.
You don't get it.
It ain't to check the box. You gotta get it. And so this is, boy, this has been a good one. This has been a good one.
Well, you know, it's your fault. You wrote the book. Now, made simple. It's your fault. We try to make it simple. Why do we try to make it simple? Because we demystify it.
Mm-hmm.
We take the uncertainty out of it. This is a very, and I know people are going to like throw bricks at me when this is a very simple process because it is what life is.
Mm-hmm.
It is integrated and fluidic in everything we do. Very simply designed to put you in a position where you maximize your value and your sense of well-being. That is what the interactive mindfulness of this means to you.
We are going to be carrying this because this word love transcends everything that we do in life.
Absolutely.
Everything that we do in life.
Everything.
And we're going to connect this to as many things that are commonly or that there is a need to connect it to, so that you can see that once you get this, it applies to the system is implemented the same way, no matter what the situation is. It's just now that you've got to choose to implement it.
You have to choose to do it.
To implement it. Now, and I'll be the first one to tell you, it ain't always gonna be easy.
Oh no,
because I say simple, not easy.
That's right.
Simple, not easy. Simple means here goes the information. Now, easy means that it ain't easy because you gotta do what I'm telling you.
And I'll be the second one to tell you it's not supposed to be easy.
It ain't. It ain't. Now, simple is one thing. Easy is a whole nother thing. Okay, easy means that there's little effort.
That's right. You know, it's just
simple mean it's clear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that all we're doing is trying to make this thing clear, so that you now get the choice now, to whether or not you're going to implement, whether or not you're going to put it to work, to use.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do, here's the thing: it's guaranteed to get you to the end result you're looking for. Guaranteed to get you to the place that you're looking for.
Guaranteed.
Hey,
guaranteed. You know,
I can't reinforce it enough, because this journey, I'm gonna tell you, you've said it so much and so many times today, Doc, and that is, man, can you imagine the joy that comes with it?
Oh boy. Hey,
the joy that comes with being in that space of seeing this clarity, having this clarity. And I'm talking about, can you imagine at every phase and stage of life, you're having and making an impact?
That's right.
Making an impact. That at the end of this journey, man, you would have invested something that's going to live well on after you have.
What is mankind? The continuity of it. You know, I stand on the shoulders of my ancestors. Some ancestor of mine, my granddaughter, will stand on my shoulders at some point in time. You know, we learn by, and we incorporate into that learning by the examples of persistence and perseverance that we have all encountered. You know, Fannie Lou Hamer tells you, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Hey,
well, hey, you know, we get to a point where we rise above because we can.
We're going to connect this, because this right here is a liberating religiosity conversation that we just had.
Oh, yeah.
And if we look, there's a lot. I mean, to this title, there's a lot of clarity here in it. And so, by all means, if you can get it, if you get it, you get it.
You get it. You get it.
And it's not meant to be at or to forge any fault on any religion.
No.
But it is to provide clarity so that you might be able to understand the significance and the need for it in every aspect of your life.
Every social, economic aspect of your life, every capacity within your life to be your life. That again is that spiritualized acknowledgement of meaning and purpose, established as how we, Darwin again, adapt and adjust to achieve.
Well, we're gonna get involved and gonna get in deeper and deeper, guys. So we're gonna be here, and we want you to connect with us. If you have some questions for the doctor or myself, send us a message at info@clearjourney.org. Just put Dr. Brockington in the subject matter, and we will pass those questions or emphasis on to him. Or if you have questions for me, just put my name in there. But it's just, it's the POL is the Philosophy of Love, Dr. Brockington, and we will get back to you. You can reach us there. If you want to know more about Clear Journey, you can go over to clearjourney.org, where we emphasize the mindset. We're talking about a love mindset in every area of your life so that you can navigate it more successfully and reach your full potential. So that's why we're here. And that's what this is all about. I tell you, this has been a great conversation today, Doc. Last episode, we was like at 45 minutes. We had hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes today. This got good, and hopefully the audience can feel it. But again, if you want to get more information, just reach out to us. We're here to help you navigate this thing called life.
Absolutely.
And as we depart every episode of everything, we say this all the time, look, we can't change life, but we're here to help you navigate it. And that's what we're here to do. So until next time, be safe. We'll see you then.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching this episode. Take a moment to head over to our social media platforms, connect with us, and leave a comment. We'd also love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, head over to clearjourney.org for more great resources. We'll see you next time on the Philosophy of Love podcast.